Hey, look, what's going on? The news is always the same. I'm so frustrated. I want to help them. I want to help the world. What happened? So many countries are at war. The war of Gaza, for example. People are suffering. In America, there are racial tensions between black and white communities. People are so greedy in this world. There are countless problems, people's problems. We all know also bullying, especially among young people. Just look at the newspaper, it's full of it. I know, it's heartbreaking. But let's look at the bigger picture. In this material world, there will be always problems. Why? Because people identify with their physical bodies. I'm a black, I'm a white, I'm a man, I'm a woman. It's endless. This identification leads to greed and conflict. But there is another perspective. You know that? It's a spiritual perspective. Krishna teaches us that everyone is equal. Why? Because everyone is a spiritual soul. I'm not my body. I am a soul. This understanding can solve our problems. You know more about that? Yes, I highly recommend reading chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita. It's worth it. I know you're stressful, but let's watch it. You can find more information on YouTube.
We don't all need to be told that this has been one of the most challenging years in perhaps the history of the world. A pandemic, a global crisis. Sometimes people come to me and say, this is all very nice, sitting down, reading a book, worshipping, praying, chanting. To be honest, I'd prefer to spend my time doing something practical to help the world. And this is one excuse that comes up again and again and again. What will this do? What will all of this spirituality do to solve the economic problems, to solve the environmental problems, to solve the social problems that we see in the world today? Rather than being selfish and just working on my own spirituality, I would rather prefer to do something to benefit and make the world a better place. Interestingly, in the 5th chapter, Krishna gives us a complete paradigm shift. In a beautiful verse in the 5th chapter, Krishna says, Vidya vinaya shampane brahmane gavihastini sunichaiva svapakecha pandita samadarshina. Krishna explains, if one gets vidya, which means knowledge, then naturally they will become vinaya, which means gentle and kind. Vidya vinaya sampanne, endowed with knowledge and kindness, one becomes a pandita, a greatly learned person. And what does a pandita have? Samadarshina, spiritual vision to see the equality of all living beings, the vision to see the spirit in everything. For a moment, what I want you all to consider is that all the problems we see in the world are due to a lack of spiritual vision. Do we have material vision or do we have spiritual vision? If we have material vision, we will exploit. If we have spiritual vision, we will nurture. If we have material vision, we will be all about taking. If we have spiritual vision, we'll be all about giving. If we have material vision, our whole life will be about enjoying. But if we have spiritual vision, our life will be about serving. If we have material vision, then every act we perform will be driven by selfishness. But when we have spiritual vision, we're impelled by selflessness. The biggest change we can make in the world is the change to give spiritual vision to as many individuals as possible. Because when there is spiritual vision in the world, then all of the problems we see in the world will disappear. If there was spiritual vision in the world, would you have racism, which is based on the temporary body? If there was spiritual vision in the world, would you have sexism, which is based on the temporary body? If there was spiritual wisdom in the world, would you have ageism, which is based on the temporary body? If you had spiritual vision in the world, would you have nationalism, which is based on the temporary body? I'll give you one more thought. If we had spiritual vision in this world, would we have speciesism, which is when we discriminate that this is an animal, this is a human, and therefore we can mistreat animals and treat humans fine? If we have that kind of discrimination, we end up in a world situation which we face at the moment. Coronavirus is zoonotic. It stems from animals, and particularly the mistreatment and disharmony we have with the animal kingdom. We may all want to run around and do something to try and solve the coronavirus pandemic, but if everyone was a little wise to have spiritual vision before, then we may not find ourselves in this mess in the first place. Therefore, our dear friends who say, I want to do something practical to help the world, Krishna says, do the most practical thing, which is in your own life, develop spiritual vision, and then try to give that spiritual vision to as many people as possible, because it's that spiritual vision which is ultimately going to create the most powerful, the most sustainable, and the most comprehensive solutions in the world today. It is great to have a passion to do something to help the world, but passion must have a compass of knowledge. Because when the passion to help the world meets with the compass of spiritual knowledge, then that passion plus the compass becomes compassion. And it is that compassion that we want each and every person to show in the world to really make the world a better place. So be in no doubt, by reading the Gita, by living the Gita, and by giving the Gita to as many people as possible, you are doing the greatest welfare work.